Happy Pride, beautiful people. My name is Alo Basu. It's an honor to be here to introduce my colleague and friend, Dr. André Isaacs, to be recognized with the Gerald B. Roemer Award. André and I have worked closely together for the past decade, give or take, as faculty members at the College of the Holy Cross, a small Jesuit liberal arts college in Worcester, Massachusetts, towards a greater goal of humanizing STEM education and broadening participation. Throughout these efforts, André has been our unfaltering champion for the potential that every student brings to our campus, and his perspectives have ever deepened our collective understanding of the progress that attending to social and cultural factors in our institutional environment can bring. Of course, since the pandemic motivated him to explore social media, André's reach has exploded beyond our institution and the confines of its academic context. In recent years, he's emerged as a transformative innovator, providing creative, current, and sharply satirical commentary on science culture. Not only is he breaking stereotypes, but he's challenging the paradigm in which science is held as separate from the human beings who carry it out. Through his social media presence as Dr. Dre 4000, he courageously pushes the envelope on the capacity of the scientific community to discuss the implicit and explicit phenomena that make STEM exclusive and contribute to attrition that disproportionately affects minoritized individuals. By focusing on popular culture that is relevant to today's undergraduate students, André jumps ahead of the sensibilities of today's faculty and cultivates critical consciousness and inclusion within the next generation of scientists. He's a trailblazer because he's not concerning himself with the pandering to the status quo in academia so that he can be allowed to have a voice. He's instead illuminating a faster and more authentic route to inclusive excellence by inviting people to deeper understanding of human differences and commonalities. We each have a unique, complex intersectional identity and positionality within every social context. We also share so much in common in our appreciation of the arts, fashion, and humor, all within what has historically been a heavily normative STEM culture. André's work is the most groundbreaking and cutting-edge work on culture change for science out there today, in my opinion. As someone who works closely with André, I would like to note that although the world now knows him for his larger-than-life social media persona, what people see on social media is a true reflection of who he is and has been as an educator, going back long before that online persona was born. He was always spending quality time with the students, mentoring them in the chemistry lab, challenging the club tennis players, showing up for multicultural student campus events, and singing with the a cappella group. He was always a whole person supporting everyone around him to be their whole selves. It has always been hard work. Now that his reach has broadened, so has the intensity of the backlash that he willingly and knowingly absorbs in order to keep putting out his positive message of self-expression and inclusion. He is nonetheless himself, for and with others, delighting us, surprising us, and making us laugh. So it becomes easier and easier to see a world in which every person's humanity in all its complexity is celebrated in every context. To work closely with André Isaacs is an overwhelming honor for me, and I'm privileged to be here with him and with all of you today. Thank you for recognizing him and the light he shines on the lives of so many with his outstanding community service. Distinguished attendees, I present to you Dr. André Isaacs.
Thank you so much for this honor. I'm literally at a loss for words. To our distinguished guests, DOJ Pride leadership, to DOJ membership attendees, it really is an honor. I think back to my journey here as an immigrant kid from Kingston, Jamaica. flying to Worcester, Massachusetts for the first time, called it Worcester and was immediately corrected. And learning how to navigate a life in a new country and also finding my own identity as a college kid going into graduate school. And so I want to thank you again from the bottom of my heart for this incredible honor. Over the past several years, the next generation of scientists have witnessed a racial reckoning following the murder of George Floyd, changes to learning environments due to the coronavirus pandemic, young women post-Roe feeling as if they've lost autonomy over their bodies, increasing concerns about climate change, and an onslaught of anti-LGBTQIA+ legislation that has grown exponentially. Our students come into our classrooms confronting these profound social challenges on top of long-standing negative stereotypes of minoritized people that are oftentimes unaddressed and reinforced in the culture of our classrooms, research programs, and even our places of employment. And so it is with immense gratitude that I accept the DOJ Pride's Gerald B. Roemer Community Service Award for our collective work on LGBTQIA+ issues, especially at a time when these rights are not just important, but under constant scrutiny. Our efforts have been fueled by a deep commitment to equity and justice. We have witnessed significant strides in recent years, yet the journey is far from over. As we celebrate, let us not forget the challenges that persist. Currently, in the United States, strides have been made in federal policy supporting LGBTQIA+ rights. The Biden administration has reinstated protections for transgender individuals in healthcare, rescinded the ban on transgender individuals serving openly in the military, and prioritized LGBTQIA+ inclusion across federal agencies. However, we must remain vigilant. Legislative efforts across various states seek to restrict transgender youth's access to healthcare and participation in sports, undermining their fundamental rights. The battle for equality also extends beyond policy, and it's about fostering a society where every individual can thrive authentically. And as a result, it's become my mission to model living fully as a queer person in academic spaces and to help other educators and staff reimagine how we mentor and educate if we hope to broaden participation in STEM by the younger generation, especially those with minoritized and intersectional identities. The traditional culture of STEM holds the field to be one that is deeply technical and objective, leaving no room for integrating cultural and social issues in our curriculum and our mentoring conversations. However, it is becoming increasingly difficult for us to decouple these issues from student learning, and we must advocate for academic environments and institutions of learning that are culturally responsive to the needs of our students and incorporate their lived realities inside our curriculum. To promote science and increase participation, we need to start by meeting students where they're at. We need to update the picture of a scientist, broaden participations through interventions in the literature that are proven to work, and we all need to do critical self-reflection on how we intentionally or not reinforce some of these barriers that prevent others from coming in. The increasing number of Generation Z individuals identifying as queer represents a profound cultural shift, reflecting both societal progress and evolving understandings of gender and sexuality. This trend highlights a generation that is more open and accepting of diverse identities, challenging traditional norms, and advocating for inclusivity. This generation is notably vocal in advocating for LGBTQIA+ rights, participating in protests, leveraging social media to amplify marginalized voices. Platforms like TikTok and Instagram have become powerful tools for sharing personal stories, for building communities, and for challenging stereotypes, further fostering a sense of belonging and validation for queer individuals. The increasing visibility of queer folks in our government, or media, and even role models within Gen Z culture has also played a sharp role in shaping attitudes towards LGBTQ+ identities. Representation in media matters, and popular culture also not only provides young people with relatable figures to look up to, but also normalizes diverse sexual orientations and gender identities, reducing stigma and fostering greater acceptance among peers and society at large. We must continue to amplify marginalized voices, advocate for inclusive policies, and pave the way for a more equitable future, starting in our classrooms. Diversity is a strength for the scientific community, and a recent survey of over 2.5 million papers in the Web of Science database demonstrated that fact, showing that papers written by diverse teams are more highly cited and have higher impact factors than those of more ethnically homogeneous teams. We need scientists to provide new solutions to the questions we ask and to generate new questions for the community to solve. LGBTQIA+ students have largely been left out of efforts around diversity education. There's a preponderance of social science literature over the past 3 decades that documents the disadvantages that women and people of color face. However, there are systemic barriers to better understanding LGBTQIA+ challenges in STEM education. NCSES, the U.S. National Center for Science and Engineering Statistics, has resisted calls to collect sexual orientation and gender identity demographics, even as President Biden's executive order directed agencies to collect such data. The omission of this critical data serves to erase an important segment of our population. As Professor of Psychology at Columbia University, John Freeman writes, "We cannot reduce disparities if we refuse to measure them." I'm happy to see that beginning in January 2025, the NCSES will begin to collect this data. Despite positive trends, challenges still remain. Discrimination, bullying, and lack of legal protections continue to plague LGBTQIA+ youth disproportionately. Many queer Gen Z individuals still face barriers to healthcare, education, and employment due to their sexual orientation or gender identity. Efforts to combat these disparities through policy advocacy, education, and community support remain crucial to ensuring that all young people, regardless of identity, can thrive in a safe and inclusive environment. Over the past several years of modeling queerness in academic spaces and education via social media, I have come to recognize the power representation and visibility have on the queer community. I've traveled across the country and given lectures at numerous institutions, imploring them to consider revamping their curriculum. Examples I give people are like, you can change the materials you provide. You can take chemistry topics and make it relevant to queer students. You can make content analogies. For example, when I talk about cis and trans alkenes for anybody who's taken an organic chemistry class, that is a perfect opportunity to uplift the voices of queer folks in your class by making connections to materials such as cis and transgender identities. Additional opportunities remain in our science education. As scientists, we jump through hoops to teach students about the wave-particle duality of light. But yet still, there are many educators who refuse to recognize students and their complex identities or even use gender-neutral pronouns. If we can go through hoops to explain the wave-particle duality of light, we can recognize that light itself is potentially the original non-binary entity. I've been able to reach and excite many young queer folks by incorporating queer culture in my lectures, using dance to teach chemistry concepts, and literally just showing queer joy in academic spaces. We all owe it to the hundreds of high school, college, and graduate level students, postdocs, and faculty that have communicated to me the importance of seeing someone like me and many of you on their TV screens, in government, in their classrooms, doctors' offices, and beyond, and implore you that being visible is critical to their survival. As we move forward, let us continue to educate, advocate, and empower. We can create a world where everyone, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity, can live openly, authentically and with dignity. And with that, I would like to thank you again for this recognition. It really belongs to all of us.